do a blind reacts, and let's go.
When the bodies were still in your apartment, there was no time when you would see them and say, this is grotesque, what have I done?
There were times, but the compulsive obsession with doing what I was doing overpowered any feelings of revulsion.
This man with a quiet, almost shy demeanor became a master manipulator who was able to lure strangers he met at gay bars to his apartment. He was even able to con the police into returning a 14-year-old boy to him after neighbors called 911 upset that the child was in the street, naked and bleeding. Dahmer convinced the police that he and the boy were simply having a lover's quarrel.
It's a intoxicated boyfriend of another boyfriend.
How old was the child?
It wasn't a child, it was an adult.
After the police left, Jeffrey Dahmer, that boy, Conorak synthesome phone. This man says he had a near-fatal encounter with Jeffrey Dahmer.
He wanted to take some picture of my back. He hit me with a rubber hammer on my neck.
He was lucky to escape because by then they had become almost routine.
Before you went out to pick up a man, was there any kind of ritual you went through?
I go to the nightclubs, drink, watch the striptease shows, and if I didn't meet anyone at the bars, I'd go to the bath clubs and meet someone there, offer them money, and we'd go back to the apartment, have a few drinks. I'd have the sleeping pill mixture already prepared. Person would drink it, fall asleep, and that's when they would be strangled.
Watching them.
Some methodology. So he's probably the most intellectual out of all of these serial unalivers that I've come across. He's the most intellectual one because there's a method into which he's going through the process. I'm going to go here and I'm going to try to be intentional. I will give money to pull you in, and then, you know, once we go back to the house, once we go back to the crib, then I will intoxicate you, and then once I do that, then I'm trying to get to the dominant part. And so from the dominant part evolves into something different than what it's supposed to be, in terms of assaulting people beyond, you know, sort of typical, like what you might call like BDSM or kink behavior, because that's essentially what he's going toward, kink behavior.
Movie Exorcist 3 was also part of his ritual. It put him in the mood for...
I felt so hopelessly evil and perverted that I actually derived a sort of pleasure from watching that tape.
Did you like feeling evil?
No, I didn't. But I tried to overcome the thoughts, and it worked for a while, but eventually I gave in.
While Jeffrey...
That's the only thing, and that's what I'm saying. In the primal instinct of us, you know, there are certain thoughts that we don't want to get out and we don't release to anyone. For the most part, people can control those thoughts, but some people struggle with those thoughts, and they come out in the ways that we see here. Sometimes in psychology, they have cognitive behavioral therapy to try to, you know, get that out and try to help people cope with those thoughts and understand that unaliving people is not the way to do it, or unaliving yourself is not the way to do it, and that's the purpose of those therapies at times. So it's interesting that he didn't. I don't know if he tried or not, but
Dahmer may say things today that make it seem like he understands what went on in his mind. He does not.
Right.
All he can do is tell you what happened, but he cannot stop whatever it is that drove him to in the first place.
Do you still feel those same urges? Do you still feel that compulsion, that obsession?
I wish I could say that it just left completely, but no, there are times when I still do have the old compulsions.
Jeffrey Dahmer says as time went on, his mind became more and more warped, and yet he was clever enough to continue to elude police and lure young men to his apartment. We should warn you, the details are very graphic.
I started having these obsessive thoughts when I was about 15 and 16, and they got worse and worse.
What were your fantasies about?
They were fantasies of control, power, complete dominance.
Typical BDSM.
They became reality.
Was there pleasure in that fantasy?
There was excitement, fear, pleasure all mixed together.
Jeffrey Dahmer fulfilled his fantasies by dismembering 17 young men. In time, his desires became more extreme, his deeds more grotesque. Listen to him talk about the most unnatural things in the most matter-of-fact of ways. That's when you realize that none of it.
It's possible here that we can see the lack of dominance. It's very unassuming. Like he's so like nonchalant that you wouldn't think he would care about that. But if you look at his jaw, like there's a tenseness about his jaw that I have to dominate. That's what that is.
That has touched him.
I was branching out. That's when the cannibalism started. Eating of the heart and the arm muscle.
It's like
it was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me. At first it was just curiosity, and then it became compulsive. Then I tried to keep the person alive by inducing a zombie-like state. By injecting first dilute acid solution into their brain or hot water. And it never did completely work.
Could someone like you be stopped? Could you be helped?
No, I was set on going with this compulsion. It was the only thing that gave me any satisfaction.
He became so warped by his evil impulses that he even took a victim's head with him to work at the Ambrosia Chocolate Factory.
I kept the mummified head and skull of one of the victims in a carrying case in my locker at work.
Were you almost flaunting it?
Yes, but that's how strong the compulsion was. That's how bizarre the desire was. I wanted to keep something of the person with me.
No. No, it's not. I wanted to keep the person with me. It's not. There is an element of wanting to go out in public with it and get away with it, outsmarting. That's where it is. The intellectualization, just like Ramirez, but in a different way, intellectualizing and saying, okay, I can get away with it. So I would bring it to my place of work. Why not bring it to, maybe he did bring it to the grocery store, who knows? But going out in public with that, because what's the need? Because your fantasies happen in private at home, because that's why you lure them back home. Because other than that, you would just do it in the nightclub, right? What would be the purpose? And we should just do it in the nightclub. But you've done the deed at home in private where you could not be caught, right? But society says, no, this is incorrect behavior. But you say, I can get a little piece of enjoyment by taking it. It has nothing to do with wanting to keep them with you. It has everything to do by being able to go out and flaunt. This is what I did and I got away with it. And you don't even notice. I can look you in your eyes and I am so good at manipulating you. That is the sport. It's not me being able to give an altar and a shrine. The sport is, I want to see just how good I am at manipulating and outsmarting and dominating people with my mind as well as my body. That's what I want to see. That's what he's doing.
Jeffrey Dahmer exhibited some disturbing behavior early on. He began drinking heavily as a teenager, dropped out of college, was arrested for indecent exposure, disorderly conduct, and fondling a 13-year-old boy. Tragically, one of his victims would be that boy's brother.
Do you know what started it? Was there any kind of incident?
That indecent exposure is very telling as well, because it's representative of the primal thoughts and the primary or the primal instinct that's there. So there's flashes of Dahmer in public. I flash out. You see it, but it's just, you can't put it all together because you don't know where he's going with it.
Isn't it that you can remember?
To this day, I don't know what started it. And the person to blame is sitting right across from you. That's the only person. Not parents, not society, those are just excuses.
His macabre 13-year crime spree finally ended when this man, Tracy Edwards, brought the police to the infamous apartment. Like the others, he had gone there with the promise of money.
He was listening to my heart, because at a point he told me he was going to eat my heart at that point. I hit him and I ran.
What was the turning point for you that made you suddenly realize that you had done something terribly wrong, something you should be sorry for?
It was the night of the arrest. I have no memory of what happened during the 6 hours before the last victim ran out of the apartment. I heard a knock on the door, and the police were there with the last victim. They asked me where the key was to the handcuffs. My mind was in a haze. I sort of pointed to the bedroom, and that's where they found the pictures. And they yelled, "Cuff him." And I was handcuffed. And it was just the realization that there was no point in trying to hide my actions anymore. The best route was to help the police identify all the victims and just make a complete confession.
When it was revealed that most of the victims were black or...
Right. The point of what you're saying, Jeffrey, if I can call you that. The point of what you're saying is that it's not that you realize you were wrong, because you just mentioned that you want to still do it. There's still urges to do it. So there's no mention that it's wrong. You still don't feel remorse because it's an urge. It's the desire inside you that continues until this day, according to this. And therefore, I'm going to continue relishing it's very similar to what we saw them when we talk about economics, and when you can look at pre-treatment and post-treatment, right? I'm able to see and observe your behavior prior, and then in the period, and then post. Before you went to the Army, this is what you want to do. You went to the Army, couldn't do it because you didn't have opportunity, space, and opportunity. And then after, you got back to doing it. If we were to let you out of prison, you would go right back to doing it because you haven't got it out. It's not that you got that you knew you were wrong, because you got caught, and they caught. So you knew what they were going to do at that point in time. You already knew what it was. So you just, here it is. There's no way I can get out of this.
Or homosexual. People in Milwaukee were incensed. Many felt that was why he went after them, and why the police didn't seem to care when their families reported them missing.
10 of your 17 victims were black. Were they racially motivated?
It was not racially motivated. It was not sexual preference. It was just to find an obsession with the best-looking young man I could find.
While you just heard him say that his sexual preference had nothing to do with he has not come to terms with his homosexuality.
Yes, it's just probably just, there is a race fetish there. It's probably all it is.
Sexuality.
Never understood it. There was no use trying to fight it because I couldn't rid myself of it. It was too powerful and persistent.
Do you dislike it?
Yes, it's caused a lot of problems for me. A lot of conflicts and unanswered questions.
The conflicts remain with him, and so do his compulsions. But in prison, he finally cannot act on his savage desires.
If you were out on the street now, would you still be committing the crimes?
Probably. If this hadn't happened, there's no doubt I probably would be. I can't think of anything that would have stopped me.
So, there's more of an intellectualization, even more than Ramirez, that he goes through in the process of methodically taking a different approach. You see this in people who unalive people all the time when they try to clean up the crime scene and get away with something. They know what they've done is wrong all the time, but it's not the fact that I know it's wrong or not, or I don't. Who cares? Or whether even I've been abused or in the past or not. It's that I feel like I am more intelligent. I can get away with it. So how much can I get away with? How risky can I be? It's risk-seeking behavior. How risky can I be to get away with this? Is what we're seeing in this gentleman right here. So that's the video. Like, share, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do. That's the video, and until next time, take it easy.